Welcome to what we're going to call the infection that is known as, well, branded. Don't be like the 30% of you guys who have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can get to 105,000. I want to talk about branded today because today is the official day that branded officially touches down here in the TCG, and I've been very adamant about this engine for a long time, and I want to kind of talk a little bit about some of the naysayers. Now, we had my tier list earlier on in the week where we kind of analyzed where I thought we would put the branded fusion shenanigans in the format, but I want to kind of expand a little bit more on this, some of the kind of counters to the deck, and just kind of say welcome to branded format, mofos. All right, so first of all, branded coming into the format here, it's a very splashable engine. I just want to point that out there. You know, everybody's looking at this deck going, well, you know, I can't play this, Robbie. Like, you know, I don't have Albaz. Who cares if you don't have Albaz? Have you read Verte Anaconda? Have you read Branded Fusion? I have a good 3 to 4 friends over here that are playing Cyber Dragon Branded. All right, because Branded Fusion, you just do all your Cyber Dragon stuff, and you're like, haha, by the way, Branded Fusion at the end of the combo. You know, I think people forget that you only get locked into fusions after the resolution of the spell card, and it is an entirely generic engine that doesn't really care. Yeah, it's way better, obviously, in the pure variant, but I'm not going to be one to dance around the thing here and say that, you know, budget players aren't going to get something out of this, because clearly there is something else here for this, all wrapped up into this little structure deck for you guys, all right? Like, that's very important to understand. Splashability is going to send ripples through the tier 2 down categories. It's very clear of this, all right? Now, on the high end of things for the format here, obviously, branded itself is going to ripple the format. Now, people like my good friend Akano have been like, no, Robbie, you're wrong. I understand, like, wanting to argue for argument's sake, but, like, when you belligerently look at this engine and you're like, no, it's not going to affect the format at all, that's not true at all. Any deck that can come in and straight away sit at the 1.5 table is something that you need to be aware of, because one more existence means that all of the other decks in the format are going to have to prepare for this, all right? And plus, as I'm making this video, I mean, you already got full power Brave running around in the format, which means that this deck can, you know, do some things. Later on today, you know, you're going to see one of the first early branded lists that did win a 30-man locals here. But, you know, you still have the Edge Gem shenanigans. You still have the patchwork engines that they were playing up to this format. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It just gets to be present in the deck, because you get easy access to this. Now, with that being said, I have said in my other videos that I do think that branded will see a lot of splashable play, and I definitely want to give a lot of credit to looking at U-based. Depending on how a ban list goes down, seems to be a lot of the theme of these videos, by the way, because, you know, I said this in the tier list, but, you know, like, current power scaling is, like, up here. You know, a ban list will, you know, knock this down a couple pegs, and that's actually where the structure deck will probably come in, because, as I said, for right now, I think, honestly, it's at 1.5, because there's just other decks that are better currently in the format that do a lot of things. But you gotta kind of look at things, you know, post-ban list here. But right now, I do think that Based will look at this engine and go, well, you know, like, it's basically free splashable chicken nuggets. You know, you can get those free chicken tendies built into this thing. You know, a branded fusion is just way more extending capabilities that you could really want. You know, being able to end on like a Mirror Jade on like the resolution of one branded. It's kind of cute, actually. You know, so that's one thing I do want to like stress. You know, not only like will tier 2 get like little ripples here, you know, some of the tier 1 decks are going to look at this engine and go, piece of candy. But that is going to be semi-dependent on how future ban list implications will go. Now, speaking of future ban list applications, you know, when this deck came out in the OCG, they had, what, a week, 2 weeks with the whole shenanigans with, you know, Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, and they didn't have Dragoon. Now, as of right now, our version of the deck gets to play Dragoon. All right, you know, the whole activate branded fusion, send the light hex seal fusion, and an Albaz, make the Albion, banish the light hex seal, and banish, you know, the Albaz to make the Dragoon. And I've seen some arguments going, well, you know, you're wrong if you don't think the Dragoon is the best way to play this deck. I personally don't have much of a take on that. I personally don't want to play the light hex seal fusion in my deck, nor do I want to dedicate the spot to Dragoon, because I just feel that having other cards would be better. That's my take on Dragoon. Now, whether or not other people will find success with it, that's why diversity exists. That's why, you know, when you look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck list, you can mess around with whatever you want to until there becomes like a solidified build amongst the community from regional tops, which you'll probably see turning over here in the next week or two as players begin to perfect what we would consider the deck and start to have the appropriate ratios forward here for what the community deems fit. But for now, I'm not super looking forward to playing Dragoon in the deck, but it is a splashable option for the player base. That seems to be the hotness right now. I read an entire argument going, you can't have an argument against me, I'm right. And I'm like, ugh, man, it's just Dragoon. Chill. All right, like it's not that big of a deal. If you want to play it, you can. If you don't want to play it, I think the cool thing is, you know, some of the earlier Albaz lists here are expanding beyond 40 cards, you know, proving to us, once again, that the formula only of the format here where players can explore these 60 card variants is actually applying to this deck too. I saw some 50 card variants. I think I also saw a 48 card list as well that somebody was testing it. It's actually very interesting to see like the turnabouts and the engines and, you know, the little things that this deck are finding success with. So that's something too. Like, you don't have to be bound when you're playing this deck to the normal 40 card rules. All right, now that all being said, you're probably like, oh yeah, Albaz format, cool, like what do I do? I'm probably go way more in depth with this, but you know, if you got 3 competent brain cells in your head, you've already probably thought of dimensional barrier, and you're like, oh yeah, cool, just flip that, call fusion. Yeah. You call it a day. You know how many times I've watched Zodiac players just scoop it up because they've been debarriered? Debarrier is the freest auto win button against this deck at certain points. It's actually kind of why I'm happy that Verte Anaconda actually exists, because you don't have that auto lose button. But this is Yu-Gi-Oh, ladies and gentlemen. There are always going to be exceptions to the rules. And, you know, Super Poly does exist for a good chainable option onto that to build something, depending on the situation. So bear that in mind as you're looking at this. Every rule can be broken in that regard. But D-Bear hurts so bad. We've also got defusion and non-fusion area. Oh man, I can't believe it. If somebody actually flips non-fusion area against me, I'm just gonna literally shake my head and be like, you are so much better than me. Obviously, defusion's cool because it sends the Mirror Jade back to the extra deck, and you know, because of Master Rule 5 implications, the Mirror Jade actually won't be able to resolve, which is actually really, really good, ladies and gentlemen. Do not underestimate being able to turn off a Mirror Jade, because that will win you free games. It's like the only reason why I want to like even consider, you know, defusion as a card at this point in time is just because of little interactions like that. So it's my little 2 cents there. But structure decks are now out. Players are going to get the chance to pick up this engine. They're going to find a good time in terms of splashing it in decks and exploring. And, you know, don't even forget to mention that budget players out here will get a lot of options. But TLDR, this engine will make a splash on the format. To really what degree, we'll have to wait and see. I think it will come in at 1.5 until a ban list. Well, you'll probably see it bump on up in the tier system, but that is going to be solely dependent on where things go. So be aware as of this point, ladies and gentlemen, if you are planning on playing locals from this weekend forward, you will have to deal with the menace that is the fusion deck. And I know a lot of players are like, I don't wanna. Yeah, I know. But you know what? Having one more competitive deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not a bad thing, ladies and gentlemen. You should be happy to have so many good options on a competitive level. So what do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later on the day, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.